What a time we've been having in the last couple of months. Earthquakes in Mexico, Hurricane Maria, and all the devastation that had happened in Puerto Rico. We have the problem of North Korea. And then, just this week, what happened in Las Vegas. My son's girlfriend was 2 blocks away, and she could very well have been at that concert, but she didn't go. Left us asking, what if? What if? And then on top of it is all the myriad of our own challenges in life. And we hear St. Paul towering above it all saying, be anxious for nothing. How on earth could he say that? Oh, be anxious for nothing. Well, what's he saying? Anxiety is rooted in a state of mind that assumes that we and this world are ultimate. It's living in one dimension. We have an example of this in the parable today, the tenants. They have no concept of who they were, i.e., tenants on someone else's land, and they have no concept of the true owner. They were completely focused on themselves and the vineyard, making the temporal ultimate. This is where anxiety is birthed. It's the absurdity of expelling God out of our world, and we all do it. By the way, I'm preaching this sermon to myself. Right? Every time we are anxious, we are shoving God out of our world. And if we do this in a routine way, our minds become an asylum of anxieties, our own private room where shadows run from themselves. St. Paul tells us, be anxious for nothing. How can this be? Well, he says prayer. That's where he takes us to prayer. What wonderful words we have in the epistle today. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Have no anxiety about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your heart. What is Paul saying? He says, prayer makes our lives two-dimensional. It injects the eternal into our lives. It opens up the shades of our minds to eternal light. God loves to hear our request. Why? Well, God already knows our request. So why does he ask us to pray? Well, he loves what prayer does to us. Do you know what prayer does to us? It's like laying out all our heart on the table inside our soul and just letting eternal light bathe them. That's what it does. Trusting that God will do what is best for us. And once we've done that, we can walk away in confidence because our wills are united with his. And the result is shalom, living in the eternal light while we're still in the temporal. We are living in the rest of the seventh day. You know, a number of years ago, when I was an Anglican priest, I remember at the altar in the middle of Mass, and it struck me like thunder. I was anxious. I was a fearful person, and I have been this all my life. And it hit me. That's not God's will for me. And that's not God's will for you. Did you know that anxiety is not God's will for you? And then the words of John chapter 15 and John 16:33 hit me, where Jesus talks about peace I give you. My peace I give you, not the peace of the world do I give you. And joy, his joy. Anxiety is pushing God and the eternal out of our minds and hearts, like the tenants ran God out of his own garden. It's closing the shades of our souls to eternal light. And it's all our choice. So we must live in two dimensions, the temporal world and eternity. Our feet have to be grounded on this earth. But you know, we have to have heaven in our heads and hearts. How do we get our minds into eternal dimension? Well, prayer, as we said already, but also inviting and entertaining right thoughts into our heads. And that we have in the rest of the epistle reading today, right? Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, what? Think about these things. This is what should be going on in our brains, in our hearts. And you know, our model is Christ. And if Christ can do it, we can too, because Christ is within us. He exists inside of us. Do you know, we all live in a disaster zone. We all do. No one lives in a safe zone in this world. We live in a disaster zone. And bad things are going to happen. What is God's will for us? Be anxious for nothing. Bathe our minds in the light of eternity. And feast on God's wonderful words. Be of good cheer. I have overcome the world.